You go raw on me. You busting nuts at me. But when I show you my wounds, I'm toxic. Who's really safe here? Because I'm not safe because you got a good stroke. And most women ain't even satisfied from it. The more we hold off on what y'all usually want, that thing, the more y'all do anyways. The more y'all give and the more y'all do.
About your doctorate because people can't find your dissertation online.
Mm-hmm.
How are you responding to that in this new era of your life?
I'm going to clear it up once on here. I'm not doing it again. And I'm clearing it up for my doc squad, for my fan base, for my audience who deserve to hear me address it. For the folks who have already made up their mind to not like me or not understand me, listen, I don't give a fuck what your narrative is. I would like for you to recreate it, double down on it, and run that shit. Because I don't give a fuck about it.
I was not going to speak about this because, to be honest with you, I was tired of the same light-skinned women we keep talking about, hearing about these women, Cheyenne Bryant, Ebony K. Williams, Tia Mowry, Tracy Ellis Ross, B. Simone, and yes, I am guilty of talking about these women, but I just get tired of the same rotation. And so I said to myself, I will only talk about these women if I feel like I can contribute something of value or something unique and different that maybe other people aren't thinking about or talking about. So to be honest with you, when this whole Dr. Cheyenne Bryant or Cheyenne Bryant fiasco got going, I could care less because I already have several videos on my channel about her. In my mind, she had already been exposed as being a fraud. And so I was a bit kind of weirded out as to why people were just now catching wind of the fact that this woman is a fraud. However, I recently became somewhat a bit more emotionally invested in this conversation. And it is because when I put my educator hat on and I start looking at things through the lens of someone who has worked in the education space for about 25 years, definitely over 20 years. And I start to see things in a different way. And so I just want to use this time for anyone who cares about this to bring some context to what we're seeing, because what we're actually seeing is the downfall and the demise of Cheyenne Bryant. And I have to get out of the habit of calling her doctor. And what I want you to understand about this downfall is that it is happening for a few different reasons. One of the main reasons why it's happening is because of her arrogance. Because of her arrogance. And this is typically how downfalls happen. And I watch probably way too much true crime. So if you watch true crime, you know that a lot of times people who are, could potentially get away with things typically end up not getting away with it because they get comfortable, they get laxed, they think that nobody's gonna, look into it. They become arrogant. And this is what I see with her on The Breakfast Club. The clip that, many of you may have already heard, the one floating around where she's like, I don't give a F, and run that S back. And, I don't get, throwing the F bomb out there, and basically saying, I'm not going to talk to, this is for my supporters and this is for the people who rock with me. So that was one of her many, I'm going to be talking about some of the missteps here, but one of her many missteps is becoming arrogant, because no matter how big you get, and I know Michael Jackson is someone who we're all talking about now because of the movie, even at that level, there were allegations about some things that, allegedly he did. And a lot of that stuff came out when he passed away. But the reality is, even the things that came up when he was alive, the expectation was that I don't care if you're Michael Jackson. I don't care if people faint when they see you. I need you to answer this question. Did you or did you not do this? Right? So what we need to understand is that Cheyenne is not Michael Jackson. She's technically not even supposed to be a celebrity. She is supposed to be a clinical psychologist or whatever. So at her level, you definitely need to answer the people's questions, because this is how you make money. This is how you get paid. You are a public figure. And so you don't have to tell us. You don't technically owe us anything. But even my point of bringing up Michael Jackson is even celebrities at the highest level, or anyone who's has a high stature, anyone, even the president of the United States, whoever it is, these people are aware that the best way to sort of calm people down and lessen people's concerns and build trust is to just answer the question, and answer it humbly, right? Don't answer it arrogantly. Don't say, I don't give a F you. Who are you to ask me? Don't do that. We know this. And so that is a huge red flag. The F-bombs that she was throwing out means that she's defensive. It means that something has struck a nerve. It means that the public is on to something. So that is one of the many missteps. But I want to go back to the first misstep, which is her breast, her body and her breast being out and exposed on the Cam Newton podcast, which is how I know of her and how many of you know of her, is that interview that she did with Cam Newton, and her boobs were out. Now you can say, Naka, what does that have to do with anything? So what? A lot of women show cleavage all the time. Like, what's the big deal? She has a nice body. She has the right to show cleavage. Naka, you're just jealous. Okay? You can say whatever you want. Again, my educator professional hat is on. Really quick, I am someone who has navigated the gamut of the education space, and I'm going to speak to some of that in a minute. I have navigated it quite well without a PhD. And why that's important is because there are conversations that I've heard in rooms that I've been in and information that I've been privy to allow me to understand the world and the professional world in a certain way. And so I'm going to get into that. But before I do that, one of the things I want to say is this: as a woman who, I have a bachelor's and a master's degree. However, I have had jobs and positions that were, supposed to be for people who have a doctorate. So if you're a woman in any of those kind of spaces, whether you have a PhD or not, the reality is this, or whether you have a doctorate or not, the reality is one of your biggest things is you want to be taken serious. Now, Cheyenne Bryant is already attractive, right? But this is not even about being super attractive or looking like a supermodel. This is about, as a woman with breast and a vagina and a butt or whatever, in those professional spaces, even on Cam Newton's podcast. Because remember, you're supposed to be branding yourself as a professional, right? Not branding and marketing yourself as a video vixen, as none of that. You, again, meaning Cheyenne Bryant, my understanding was she was marketing herself as a clinical therapy professional. So the expectation is that you would dress in that moment the way you want to be addressed. She came to his podcast showing a lot of cleavage, with a attire that would more so be for nightlife. Now, again, no big deal. We were just getting to know her. A bit of a concern, a bit of a red flag, but we didn't really know who she was. So it wasn't like that big of a deal. It was like, that's a little interesting. Clearly you are wanting Cam Newton to, see you in a certain light and perhaps find you sexy. And maybe you want the audience to find you sexy, and you want women to look at you and be like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And, the things that we all do, right? But again, what I look at is patterns. So it's not so much, oh, well, that happened one time, but then you look at the subsequent times that those types of things happen. So, I think she did get some backlash for all the cleavage. And so she kind of, moving forward, dressed a little bit more appropriately. But it's still in her because we saw what she wore several months ago to this Jeezy concert. And it was like, girl, basically a bra and panties. And, again, as someone who is a professional, when you are marketing yourself, branding yourself, that is your identity. That is your professional identity. And you want to be taken seriously. Again, men, how do I say this? If you are an average looking woman with an average body, in a lot of the professional spaces out here, people are going to flirt anyway. Men are going to flirt anyway, right? So your goal is to, and I've talked about this in another video, kind of neutralize yourself so that when you're having conversations with people, they're not thinking about, people are going to think about sleeping with you, but you want to dial that back a little bit and try to allow yourself to stand out for your intellect, your personality, your ideas, your creativity. That is how it really works in professional spaces with people who have legitimate degrees and who really want to market themselves for that. Okay. So again, that is the number one way that she started to look suspect to me is because you're saying you're this therapy professional and you have this doctorate, but you're moving and dressing and talking in a way that's very sexual. And it's like most women, again, I have been I have been in a lot of spaces. And again, it's not that people who have doctorates and in all those highly educated spaces, it's not like all those lustful feelings don't exist. But again, you're aware that lust is a thing. And so because you as the professional want people to take you serious, there's a way in which you try to mitigate that. Okay, let me put my boobs up. Let me, let me not curse. Let me not make references to my private parts. There's just things that you just know are off limits. Because like I said, again, as a woman navigating those spaces, which a lot of times, many of the professional, highly educated spaces are male dominated. I have taught at the collegiate level. I've taught in for-profit, in, like I said, a large research institution. And even now I work with community colleges. So I've seen it all. And again, I know that, and it's not about being jealous of Cheyenne Bryant. It's about, again, as a woman, my goal is to gain respect. Now, again, some people are not going to respect you just because I'm a black woman. I have locks, whatever. People are going to find reasons to disrespect you. So your job is not to give them more of a reason by having your boobs out. So, or wearing a bra and panties out. And I don't care that it's to a concert, just wearing that out. Because as I've said in other videos, like I'm always aware that I can see my students any and everywhere. In fact, some of my students have even found me on YouTube and have literally been in the comments like, oh my God, Miss Naka, you're on YouTube. So again, as a professional, someone who works with clients, you work with students, you work with the public in a certain way, your goal is your number one goal is at bare minimum to gain respect, not to gain lust, right? And again, people are going to say, oh, well, you're just jealous. If you look like her, you would do it. It's not about that, because you don't have to. Here's the trick. You don't have to look like a Cheyenne Bryant to get attention in many spaces. You just don't. You can have a vagina. You can just have boobs. And off the top, somebody is going to try to, again, a lot of times you're in spaces, and I've been in spaces with men of power, a lot of white men, men of other races. And so again, when I seen that was how she chose to dress and present herself, it was like, okay. And it was just something I took note of. Another misstep has to do with her talking a lot. And now you can say, well, nigga, I mean, clearly you talk a lot. You have a whole YouTube channel. You're always talking about. At the level that Cheyenne Bryant either is and or wants to go to, at the level where she has celebrities like Offset in her DMs. Why do I know that? I shouldn't know that. We all know that and we shouldn't. But at that level, essentially, there's a reason why someone like a Beyonce doesn't do a lot of interviews. Okay. There's a reason why even Michael Jackson, to go back to Michael Jackson, when he was alive, didn't do a ton of interviews. And when he did, he was very strategic and selective about who did the interview. Right. And you can say, well, why are you comparing Cheyenne Bryant to Beyonce and Michael Jackson? Because that's who she wants to be. Even though she's supposed to be, again, this psychology professional, this therapist, but she wants to be a celebrity therapist, a celebrity psychology professional. So at that celebrity level, most people will tell you that you need to stop talking so much. And you need to have media coaching. So I'm going to take it all the way back to the point I made about her being arrogant. What I believe a person who had proper media, I guess, training and wanted to kind of control the narrative a little bit more, what I believe that person would have done is to have the questions either not asked to them. So the question of, can you tell me about your credentials and give me more information about why we can't find your doctorate when we try to look it up and all that stuff. That question would have not been asked, right? Because we all saw what happened with Tyla. I think that was also on the Breakfast Club when she was asked a question that, her team didn't want asked, and the way it was handled. And that essentially ruined Tyla's career. Very similar. This question essentially has ruined Dr. or Cheyenne Bryant's career. And why it relates to her being arrogant is because she probably said, because a lot of times before the interview, they have like a pre-interview talk and they kind of go through the things that she's going to be asked. And I'm sure she probably said, feel free to ask me that. I'm going to address it. I'm going to shut everything down. I'll take care of it. And I will address the question to the best of my ability. Now, because she knows that she's not really a doctor, or there's some scandalous stuff going on with her alleged doctorate or whatever, she should have avoided that question. She should have told DJ Envy, do not ask me anything about my education or my credentials. Now, the downside, of course, would be by her doing that, the lie would have continued. She has been getting away with this for a while now. And so for her, she's probably like, go ahead and ask me. Feel free to ask me. I'll address it. Not realizing that, especially if you're lying, you need to make sure that folks aren't asking you questions that can incriminate you. So that was actually a misstep on her part and on her team's part, because really they should have just said, don't ask Cheyenne anything about her degree or her credentials. But her and her team, I believe, are so arrogant that they thought that they can explain it and that it would make sense and that people would buy it and eat it up and just believe her or believe her. And they were mistaken. I mean, the public is smart and we know how to do research. So
Now, to my doc squad, my fan base, my folks, my village, it's very simple. I went to a school, Argos University, completed an entire program. I went back online to get my official transcripts because I was applying to a law school many years ago to be a professor there. And I had to provide my transcripts, right, to get hired. And I went to contact the school and say, hey, I need my official transcripts. I need my entire thing. And there was no school. I was like, okay, I'm confused. I Google. It says this school has been shut down. I said, oh, well, they got to have records. I mean, they were accredited when I attended the school. They were accredited when I finished the program. I go and look, there is a third party that has the records. Where I contact the third party, that third party only holds records for 2 years.